Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is that you are and wherever you may be. Thank you very much for making us a part of your day. I am Brad Franklin, a creative content writer here in Chesterfield. I'm very glad to tell you that Chesterfield Behind the Mic is on the air once again. Now, sometimes we talk in here about sort of some of the new stuff that's coming to Chesterfield, some of the things that the county is doing. Maybe there's a new event, something that you want to check out. This one's interesting because this is something that is coming to the county, but it's not necessarily just the county's doing, right? This is something that's sort of coming to the county, a pilot program from GRTC. I'm very glad to welcome Henry Bendon from GRTC to the program to talk about Microtransit. Henry, how are you?
I'm fantastic. It's so great to be here.
I really appreciate your time. Really appreciate you coming down and talking to us a little bit about Microtransit. Now, I think for some people, they know what GRTC is, and we'll get into that in a minute, and they might even have an idea of what Microtransit is. This is probably their first time hearing you. I don't know. I don't think I even asked you the question in our conversations before, and if this is your first podcast or whatnot. But before we get into the nuts and bolts of what we're talking about today, let me talk a little bit about you, for example. In terms of your background, how is it that you came to sort of be sitting across from me today? Like, what did you grow up thinking, what I'd really like to do is I'd really like to do comms for a mass transit sort of thing. What's your background, and how did you sort of get into this gig?
Brad, when I was 3, my family took me on the first trip that we went on to a town that didn't have a train.
Oh.
And I was so upset that I ruined the whole trip. I have loved public transit since I couldn't really speak.
That's awesome.
And
when I made that joke, I really didn't think that was going to be the answer, but that's an incredible answer.
Yeah, no, it wasn't necessarily going to be mass comms, but it was going to be public transportation. I really do. I love the bus.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so in terms of your background with trains and buses and such, when you go places, you seek it out? Do you always want to check it out no matter what, or do you got to go out of your way?
I am a proud Amtrak Guest Rewards member.
Which given your background and such, and certainly your current position, that makes sense. Now, GRTC, I think for a lot of folks in Chesterfield, is something that they know a little bit about, even if they necessarily haven't, done this or that. They sort of have an idea of what GRTC is. But even though there is that familiarity, I'd like to start there and kind of drill down a little bit. In your own words, how would you sort of describe what GRTC is, its history, and how things have kind of changed for GRTC over the years?
Well, this is such an interesting question because what GRTC is today and going into the future is a little different than what we've been in the past. We're at a very, very exciting time. I've been saying it basically anywhere that I get the opportunity to. This is kind of the best 5 years that we've seen for public transit in the history of the Richmond region. Our relationship with Chesterfield is great. You guys actually own half of us. We're jointly owned by Chesterfield and the city of Richmond. But for a long time, service, especially transit service, followed the old trolley tracks and was pretty consolidated downtown with a few commuter routes. Right. Earlier in the year, you saw in January that we extended the 1A along the Midlothian Turnpike. That's the second big extension we've done in the last couple of years after we added the 111 on Richmond Highway. What we're seeing is that, to provide everybody in the region the transportation options that they want and the freedom that is transit access, and also to make sure that all kinds of folks, both in Chesterfield County and who want to come to Chesterfield County, have that access. We are really excited about way more transit service out here. So what GRTC is an amazing way to get around. It is fare-free transit in your community and with connections across the region. And it's really about freedom and opportunity and economic and healthcare and education access and all those other things. Right.
You mentioned a second ago that this 5-year period has been so exciting. To what would you attribute that to? What do you feel like is the linchpin for why that's been the case?
Regional enthusiasm and the Central Virginia Transportation Authority. I think, for a long time, there were just complicated every year funding questions. Then a couple of years ago, we all got together as a region and the General Assembly did, and they said, hey, we are going to make investing in transportation spending. And that's not just transit spending. We get 15% of CVT operating funds. A lot of that goes into paving our roads and just making it easier to get around for everybody. But consolidated into that picture is a transit system that's seeing more investment and also more and more and more ridership. So over the past couple of years, we are 5th in the nation in ridership recovery compared to pre-pandemic ridership. We went fare-free during COVID, and that's been an incredible success for the system and for our riders. It's a proud feature of the system, and we're really excited about continuing that and maintaining that. But what we have now is we've got regional commitment in not just operating funds, but in things like the North-South Bus Rapid Transit Project, which would see a pulse line potentially coming to Chesterfield, and our amazing partnerships with Henrico. Recently, we've expanded to Goochland and Hanover counties, so we have service there for the first time ever. And this service that we're here to talk about today, it's coming to Chesterfield. It's already come to a little bit of Henrico and Hanover and Richmond, but it's going to go to Ashland. It's going to Powhatan. We want to be, and we believe the CVTA gives us the opportunity in terms of regional planning and also the mandate in terms of funding to be a regional transportation service. Previously, we were kind of a city bus system with some service in the county. Right now, what we know is that if we are going to keep growing the way the Richmond region is growing, and we're going to give people the opportunity and access that they want and deserve and need, we need a regional transportation system. And GRTC is so excited about that as an opportunity for us and an opportunity for the region. So, you know, super grateful to be here chatting about what this means.
It's interesting you said that, because it feels like, you know, growing up, GRTC, I thought of, and I think probably a lot of people did, right? The sort of city bus system, right? And to your point, something like Microtransit and this pilot program coming to Chesterfield, that concept in and of itself, I mean, if you'd gone back to like 1985 and said, you know what, at some point there's going to be somebody and they're just going to pick you up in a car and they're going to take you someplace. They're going to pick you up in a van. You're in and of itself, your mind would have kind of been blown. But even the idea that GRTC would have not just be buses, but would be potentially these shuttle vans, right, that we're going to talk about here in a second, that idea would have seemed, you know, just absolutely out of this world, right? It would have blown people's minds. So the idea here, this microtransit service, and I want to get to that now. You know, we've seen GRTC do a lot of different things, you know, different, you mentioned Pulse, the different things that GRTC has done. Can you tell me about sort of the background here and what has made this microtransit option such an attractive thing for you guys in terms of adding it to your offerings?
Absolutely. So what microtransit is on-demand, curb-to-curb transit service in a zone. It's basically hailing a ride in your community, but it's public transportation. And so there's a couple of things that go into this. Great leadership from the Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation. Microtransit has been something that has been successful not just in Richmond, but across the Commonwealth, and something that really works. And the other thing that it is for us is, you know, you talked about our bus rapid transit. We have our fixed route bus service. We have express bus service. What we want to do and what we're trying to provide with all of our services is the right transportation connections for your community. So there are some places where you do have demand for transit service. Everybody deserves access to public transit, but where you might not necessarily have the demand or the geography or anything else to lead to a fixed route bus line. When you have those things come together, one amazing solution for that is microtransit. Ours is called Link. So with Link, you get an app on your phone. It's the GRTC on the Go app. It's available now in the App Store and Google Play Store. And even though the zone's not live, I recommend that people get it now so that they have it when it comes. But you're able to just say, here's where I am inside the zone and I want to go over there. You just call it, and within 20 minutes of that call, a GRTC branded van and a professional operator will show up and pick you up and take you where you want to go, you know, and it's fare free in this pilot period too. So this is on demand. This is professional branded, public transportation level quality service in your community, connecting you to the things you need in your life.
So I think for a lot of folks, the idea, of having an app on their phone that they go to and something happens is, you know, it's fairly normal now, right? Whether that's delivery, whether that's picking up food for yourself, maybe that's ordering something, you know, Amazon, what have you. Here, you're going to have an app. You're going to put in your details, and somebody in a shuttle van is essentially going to pick you up and take you curb to curb within, like you said, the zone. Now, folks who are watching this the video version of this on YouTube are probably right now going to see a map. But can you tell me about sort of how we would define in human words the zone we're talking about here? What's the best way to describe the area that this is going to be available in?
Yeah, so actually we have a name for the zone now. It's the Clover Dale Zone, and it follows 360, so Hull Street Road, from basically the end of GRTC service on the 1C at the Chippenham Mall, down all the way to Commonwealth 20. And with kind of expanded service around that. So you've got access into those communities, to all of those businesses and places you want to go on Hull Street Road, and also to a lot of homes and apartment buildings and everything else that's around there. So what this is this first Clover Dale Zone here in Chesterfield is going to provide all of these connections around that Hull Street Road corridor and really bolster service. Right now there's already service on, Hull Street downtown, and then it keeps continuing, kind of picks up where it leaves off, and then expands kind of like a river delta, where instead of it just being a line, it flows out into the community. Right. So that you really can. I mean, the line that was in one of my favorite press pieces from the Azalea Zone was, your next GRTC bus stop is your couch. Yeah. Right. You know, you don't have to get up. You can just sit there and say, hey, I got to go to school. I got to go to the library. Right. It's time to roll. Right. Click. Here comes the bus, right? And you're ready to rock. It is. You mentioned, and I think it's true, that ride hailing is something that's familiar to a lot of us, right? But there's something that's a little bit different about transit service, which is regular expected pickup times. It's going to be 20 minutes pretty much every time. There's the opportunity to share with more people and have it be recorded, and there's a professional driver and all this other thing. And then there's the very much expectation right now of a very low set price of $0. $0. So all of those things together, what it is, some ride hailing is expensive, right? But now you get that same level of, okay, I need to go somewhere, and it's a little bit of a premium service. It's not like we're showing up in a limo, but we are providing you with a very comfortable, clean, quick experience on vans that I should note have Wi-Fi and charging ports and all kinds of other things.
And those things certainly matter. The other thing too that's really interesting about this too is that we think of ride-hailing services, and let's be real. And I don't mean to disparage anybody who's in the marketplace here, but there's a little element of uncertainty with those services, right? You're not really sure, like, if what you're getting yourself into, right? Granted, you can read reviews and all this fun stuff, but like, what the realistic experience for a user in that sort of world is just different, because GRTC is a professional. There's accountability.
Well, look,
the drivers are people.
I guess I did set that we don't want to compete with, nor are we trying to say that we're competing with a brand new Uber or Lyft, right? I'm not here to disparage those services. I do want to make it very clear: love, respect, use Uber and Lyft. But it's more that, like, this is service that's from us. It is accountable to taxpayers. Right. It's all of those other things. Right. We are a public service corporation.
That's fair.
Yeah. So it's more that I want you to connect the green and purple and the gray that is our vehicles with the same level of service that you would expect downtown, where the bus comes and you get on, you go. The bus comes, you get on, you go. You just have to add an app, or you can call the main switchboard. But we do encourage you to use the app if you can. And
the great thing here too is that you mentioned expansion. I mean, think about it in terms of, you could obviously go curb to curb where you need to go, from your couch to your point directly to that place, or you can connect yourself to other routes. And I think that is an opportunity here that really does kind of expand this thing out, because instead of you just thinking like, hey, I need to go just from point A to point B, you can go from point A to limitless opportunities once you get into the network.
Oh, that's what's so great about this, is that once you're on the van, you're in GRTC service zone. And expanding the zone means that sure, you may live way down Hull Street Road, but if you want to get to the airport and you got a couple of hours, or more importantly, you just want to get to downtown, you can go connect to the 1C. If you're a commuter and you don't know about the 82XR Commonwealth 20 Express route, or you would love to be able to commute downtown, but you don't have a car to go park in a park and ride, well, now you can just catch Link to that comfortable commuter express bus and have us do that POI driving for you, which is, and paying that toll for you, right?
That's very true. It's funny though, because as you're kind of describing it, I'm thinking, you're describing the different routes and things. For a lot of people, this might all be new. So to your point about, go ahead and download the app now, go ahead and get that, familiarity down, because once this thing launches, and I believe it's on March the 11th. So as folks listen to this, we're a little bit ahead of that, obviously, for our production schedule. But when this thing drops, it'll be right before. What's the sort of planned rollout for this thing?
Yeah, so March 11th, we'll be holding a launch event at La Prade Library. We have a couple of Chesterfield County supervisors planning on joining us. We'll keep this surprise until we've sent out that announcement, but there is a lot of excitement at a lot of levels about this. Yeah. So we hope you all come out at 11 on the 11th. We'll have some GRTC t-shirts to give away, and we'll be chatting, and there may be news, and there will definitely be, because we love doing them, a ribbon cutting. It's been one of one of the things I think Chairman Nelson mentioned when we did the 1A launch. He was like, well, hope you guys are getting used to ribbon cuttings, because one of the great things about enthusiasm for transit right now is we are just launching things all over the place.
That's right.
And the month of March is, Chesterfield is first, Clover Dale Zone is first, but Ashland is the Monday after, and Powhatan is the Monday after that. So, hello, region. We have some link coming for you, which we're really excited about.
One thing before we wrap up, Cloverdale. Where did the name come from?
You guys.
I knew that, but I just wanted to plug it as an opportunity.
Let's go get what's their colleagues? Elias.
Jay.
Let's go get Jay.
So the idea though was we're combining Clover Hill, right? And we're trying to sort of play on the words and such, which I think was a kind of a nice touch. And shout out to Jay for coming up with.
Oh yeah, shout out to Jay. We really did appreciate it. We kicked off a meeting a couple of weeks ago with there's. I guess I'm going to take this opportunity to say that part of what's so exciting about behind this is that, Chesterfield County's planners and funding guidelines, we've all been talking about where we want this zone to go and how we want it operationally to work and what the hours are and what it's going to serve, and all of those things are available on ridegrtc.com/link. Deeply encourage you to go check that out and keep an eye on it, especially, as this pilot goes and we're able to expand service and zones and hours. But it's also fun to have worked together on stuff like the name and the launch event and, the social media. It's as busboy social media, it's kind of fun to do that as well. That's not, it's just a fun part of the job there to be able to make sure that people know that that's coming. But I guess also follow us on Instagram.
Just gonna plug all the things.
Yeah, plug them all.
All right, let's get you out here on this one. So with something like this, obviously the location it's servicing in that area, I'm sure there are some thoughts already as to sort of like what's next, and you've already mapped out sort of like where GRTC is looking to take Link, even in the immediate future, right, with all the different places. What's next on the horizon, so to speak, for not just in terms of where else Link can go, but like what does it need to look like for this specific service here in Chesterfield to sort of expand to include more than just the location that it currently expands? Like what's the next step look like for you guys?
Well, so there's a lot of things that go into determining where service comes. I think step one here is making sure that we do our job and not just run this service, which we're very good at running service, but also make sure that everybody knows and has the opportunity to get on board. One thing we've seen in our first zone in Azalea is that ridership, that the Azalea zone effectively replaced a bus called the 93, and the ridership on Link is much higher than that bus ever was. This service is effective, it's efficient, it gets you where you want to go, and it is really a great opportunity. But we're also seeing that there are parts of Mechanicsville that are covered by that zone where people aren't really riding yet. And, that's about raising awareness. Is a big part of why we're super grateful you brought us on today, and we're chatting with all your listeners. But, letting people know that this is out there and this is rolling. Thinking about maybe doing a TV commercial, a bunch of other stuff. Nice. But for us, step one is let's get as many people onto these vans and rolling as possible and figure out, what's the level of service necessary? How many operators do we need?
Right.
How many vans do we need?
Right.
Are we going to, right now, we're using the shuttle vans that we use for our care paratransit service, which will also be accessible now because we're expanding more service. Right. Those are CNG powered. Maybe, it's time for some EVs or some other stuff like that. So interesting technological solutions. But then the other thing is what's really cool about Link is when you ride the system, obviously you're calling it from one place and going to another place. So we have data points on where riders are using.
Right.
And I was just looking at our heat map from our first zone, and that's helping us not just plan where we need more Link service, but understand what are the transportation needs, what are the transit needs of communities.
Right.
So, I don't want to jump the gun on a service that hasn't quite launched yet and say that this means that we're going to get bus service or anything else. But what I do want to say is, we're super excited to bring this to the community and to get everybody's feedback. The other part of this being, a pilot program in this initiative is we're not planning on cutting service. That's not something that we want to do or intend to do with any of our projects. We want to find them and make them sustainable, and we've actually got quite a bit of funding behind this to keep it running for a while. But as we're doing that, we're also going to engage with the community and see how much everybody likes it and where they want it to go and make tweaks. This is your transit service. The thing about being a regional transportation system that is funded by and accountable to taxpayers is that we are funded by and accountable to taxpayers, and we're stoked about that. Yeah. I love working for all of you. I mean, you guys do it too, right? We work for the government. It's great to work for everybody and to be able to tailor service to where that's going to go. So
Absolutely.
we're also going to keep our ears to the ground, and I guess on the board the vehicles as well. Make sure that we're listening and figuring out where we want to go.
Put some comment cards on the front.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's comment cards. There's our email. There's our public comment forum. We get in touch with us, but we're mostly excited for you to get on board. The other thing, I guess I'll do quick plugs too. Once you're in the system, the GRTC on the Go app is great for calling and delivering the rides. It's produced by a company called Via that also runs our paratransit. But you're going to want just the regular transit app when you're downtown or anywhere else in the system. Transit's just an international standard that we paid for a deluxe version for all of our riders so that you can get around really easily and see where all of the buses are and experience real-time information and all that good stuff.
Cool.
We want the link into the system to be very seamless. So you'll be able to hop on. We're really excited about the idea that you will be able to grab that Commonwealth 20 or especially the 1C, be able to visit anywhere on Hull Street in Manchester, connect to Southside Plaza, all of our other routes that are run around. So we're really excited about connecting to people to all of those things and then seeing how much more Chesterfield wants to connect to all of those things.
Right.
And, just basically going from there. This is going to be great.
Good deal. Well, Henry, thank you very much for coming on the podcast, talking to us about bringing Link to Chesterfield, and I'm really excited for it and really thankful for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Make sure you check us out on social media. On Twitter, it's at Chesterfield VA, and on Instagram, it's Chesterfield Virginia, all one word, and on Facebook, you can check out our podcast page. Just search Chesterfield Behind the Mic. Now, make sure to follow or subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, or wherever it is that your programs are sold. And if you'd like to give us a rating or review, we greatly appreciate it. As always, a video version of our show is available on our YouTube channel as well as on our website, Chesterfield.gov/podcast. That's also where you can submit feedback anytime, make suggestions, or just reach out to us. You can watch the show on WCCT Thursday through Sunday at 7, on the weekends at noon. That is Comcast Channel 98 and Verizon Channel 28. Lastly, check out Chesterfield.gov/connect with us to find out a number of other ways to connect with Chesterfield County. My thanks to my director, Martin Stith, my executive producer, Teresa, Bonifas, and all the good folks from Constituent Media Services for all they do. My thanks to you for joining us today. So, from all of us here in Chesterfield, thanks again for making us a part of your day. We'll see you again real soon. Take good care. From blogs to podcasts, and I'm very glad to tell you that Chesterfield Behind the Mic is on the air once again. Newsletters to alerts, social media, the latest community news.
Welcome to the latest installment of This Week in Chesterfield.
How to get in touch, and everything in between. If you want to know about Chesterfield County, our Connect With Us webpage has you covered. Chesterfield.gov/connect with us. Connect with us, your source for all things Chesterfield.